Hello, everybody. This is Sarahscopic, and I am back. Kind of. I am still quite busy, but we're going to try to make this work. You're probably wondering why you're watching a Traffic Musings episode that is not in a car. And my answer to that is my phone has very little battery these days, and I had made a bad decision on waiting to try to record on a day where my phone was just dying, and then I realized I was running out of time to try to get the recording done, so I was like, well, I have things to tell you guys, so I guess I'm here, but it's not all for naught, because, I mean, let's face it, the main appeal of Traffic Musings is, yes, I tell stories, but I'm doing it while driving, so there's a part of you that's like, is she going to make it through this time? Sorry, Mother, I know that's not what you want to think about, but it's kind of true, right? So the whole idea is, of course, that I'm saying stories while doing something else, because multitasking is a healthy way of dealing with things. So, but never fear, I am going to be doing something. I am going to be continuing a 2 decades long project of knitting a scarf. I have not tried to knit this in probably 5 years, but I started. I kind of remember how to do it. It is the simple knot way, you know, you're not really doing anything special. I used to be able to do this with my eyes closed. I mean, it's a simple knot, that's okay. But we're going to try to do this. I did a couple of practice rounds to make sure I knew how to actually do it. I remember, doesn't mean the stitches are going to be great. Isn't this cool looking though? It's nice and stretchy and you can't feel, but it's nice and soft. I don't know who's going to have this. It might just be me. I mean, it's literally all my favorite, like my trio of favorite colors, kind of, like... It's got teal and magenta and purple. I like those 3 colors together. They're really cool. Anyway, that's not why you're watching this. You're watching this because I have stories to tell you. And boy, do I have stories to tell you. So, about a month ago, I was in jury duty. And I told you all that if there was anything exciting that was happening, I would let you know. And the reason I didn't mention anything for a while is because I got put on jury duty. Now, I was thinking like, oh, you know, they would have me there and then, you know, they'll call me off and I would tell you all about the experience. No, I got there. Waited. They called me up to be part of a, part of a case or whatever. I got there. I was then called as being like the first 12 first 14, of jurors to basically see if they would keep me on the case, and they kept me. So I had jury duty for the entire week. And boy, was this case a doozy. And now that it's after, I can actually tell you guys what happened and what was discussed. Because this was a weird case. It was actually a very open-shut case, but we tried to make it a doozy, and it was weird. So the case was, the charges, I should say, against this gentleman was, what was it? Home invasion in the first degree, which is intense. And then it was, felonious assault with a deadly weapon, this being a gun, and then it was possession of a gun, I think was the last one. So, you know, those are some pretty hard-hitting charges and very, bad criminal charges. You don't want these criminal charges. So how the case was explained to us was it happened like a year ago. Or no, it was like 9 months ago, but still felt like a year ago. And basically all what we were told was that there was a gentleman, I don't even remember his name, so I won't give names. There was a gentleman who supposedly, who was accused of coming over to this older lady's home, beating her up with a gun, didn't fire the gun, but beat her up with the gun, and then tried to escape. The old woman called 911, had happened to call 911 before this, so there was a whole recording of this whole thing taking place. And afterwards, after the police arrived, and as the police arrived, they were questioning the lady who got hurt. She pointed to the guy, because he happened to be coming down the street with a girlfriend or something, and said, "There he is." The police captured him. They went to the spot where they saw him, and they found a gun. And so he was arrested. Blah, 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 blah. So that was the thing. The problem with this case is you would think it'd be pretty open shut. But the problem was that it was really weird, guys. Like, we're sitting in the courtroom, and I just feel patronized because the freaking prosecutor, who's this really young guy, was even like, you guys, you, the jury, are intelligent people. You guys can connect the dots, blah, blah, blah. And we're just kind of sitting there going, what? And the evidence that they had was not much, and the only testimony that they presented was the testimony of the lady the victim in this case. And they had, because there were other people there, according to sources. Oh, I'm sorry, not besides her, and 2 police officers who were on the scene. Those were the only testimonies we got to hear. We didn't get to hear from the accused at all. That was actually one of the jury questions, was, would you hold it against my client, the defense attorney, if he does not, if he does not testify. And that was how I probably could have gotten off, was by saying that, yes, I would have seen him as guilty, but I didn't want to lie, so I didn't. But a lot of people did get off on that one. They weren't allowed to be on jury duty, so that was cool. But anyway, so that was the thing. He did not, go and testify. Oh, am I done with this section? I did it. On to the next section. So we are there, and so that was the only testimony we got. The only evidence we were given was the gun itself, which was this tiny gun that could clip or whatever, and the 911 call and some pictures. And we heard the 911 call, and basically, because what had happened, Jesus. The actual story behind this is what kind of kills me every time. And I'm really bad at telling stories. You guys have watched enough Traffic News to know that. But I'm going to try to tell you the story that was explained to us by the victim. Oh boy. So, this lady, the victim, she has a lot of plants. A lot of plants. She likes to grow plants. And in fact, when we asked when the police officers were questioned, what do they remember of the house, that was the first thing they all said. They were like, I remember a lot of plants. Which was just funny, because it was yeah, she had a lot of plants. She knew the accused because of, he would buy cigarettes from her sometimes. But the main reason she knew of him is because she had woken up one morning, and you have to understand, this victim has gone through a lot in her life, we found out much later, and so her testimony was not very coherent for half the time, and in fact, the poor defense attorney, did not know, what to ask her, because she wasn't very good at giving her testimony, let's just put it that way, and I could tell both the prosecutor and the defense attorney wanted to finish this testimony sequence as quickly as possible. But the way we kind of understood the story was that she thought the accused had stolen one of her plants. So she had gone to his house, and when she went to his house, he had waved a gun at her, saying, I didn't steal your plant, get off my property. She left, went back home, called 911 to complain about the fact that she thinks this guy stole her plant, and I dropped my sewing, oh well, and stole her plant, and, had, and waved a gun in her face. While while she's at the 911 call, while they're talking to her, you can hear, in actually the 911 call, some guy talking and, calling all these mean, nasty things, and, coming in, and you hear some scuffle, and she says that she was beaten, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it was an argument over a plant. Now, he wasn't being accused of stealing the plant. That wasn't the point. But that was just a part of the story. And, the reason I have to bring this up is because I felt like I was in a Phoenix Wright case. Just to put it simply. And the reason I say that is because, the whatchamacallit, the victim seemed cuckoo enough, kind of. I mean, she's experienced trauma that's affected her brain a bit, but seemed cuckoo enough, and I should say, that's not politically correct, to be in a Phoenix Wright game. And also on top of that, we were trying to talk about whether the gun was his, because there was no other way of linking the gun to the accused other than when the police officers went to where he was standing, there was the gun on the ground. They didn't get any, there was no way to really get fingerprints off of that gun and stuff like that. So that's all they had going for them. And so it was one of those oh wow, this is a setup, and of course the phone call, right? And we don't hear the voice of the accused, so we can't, clarify that it's definitely him. So it just felt like a Phoenix Wright case, because it was oh my gosh, what if it's all a misunderstanding, blah, 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 blah. But that's not what happened, and we did find him guilty, and we're pretty sure he was totally guilty, especially when we found out afterwards some of the other stuff that he had done, and we went, oh, we don't feel bad. Because we as the jury were feeling very conflicted over, we were just kind of, but half of us were just kind of mad because we felt like we were getting kind of punked because there was so little evidence, and it seemed like they wanted us to decide on something very huge and such little evidence. And so there was a good group of us that, we felt confident in the home invasion, although I have to tell this story. There was a guy on our jury who was an audio mixer or whatever, and he tried to tell us that he thought the whole thing was staged. He thought that that lady was smarter than she let on, the victim, and that the whole phone call was staged, and that it sounded super fake. And we all went, what? And we then went to listen to the phone call again, and he changed his mind and said, no, that was totally real. So we all went, okay. So we were pretty confident on, the charges of home invasion. We were like, that was probably him. But the main thing we couldn't really figure out was, like, was that his gun? Because it was just more of, like, it was kind of circumstantial, kind of. And so we had a huge argument about it because, most of us were like, well, we're just saying that this isn't, innocent before guilty. It's not necessarily that there's proof that this is his gun. And the other group of people were like, no, but you're just saying that it wasn't his gun. And we're saying, no, we're just saying they didn't prove that it was his gun, blah, 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 blah. The ideological arguments that happened in the, felt like 12 Angry Men. And, eventually, we all reached an agreement. We had to take an extra day. And we all reached an agreement, and we found him guilty, and I felt, there was a girl there who, bless her heart, she just felt so guilty about, she's like, this poor guy, I'm sure that he, that he's just in the wrong, just wasn't thinking right, blah, blah. She was giving him, way more credit than he probably deserved, and we found out afterwards that, no, this guy actually is a pretty terrible person. The main reason that this court case even happened was because he was on a 3-strike rule, and so he kind of thought, well, I have nothing to lose by making this go into jury trial, and, this poor juror got real mad after that. So, yeah, I don't know if my story made any sense to you guys, but jury duty was a riot. And the people were fine. We only really argued like that one time over that one little thing, but we found him guilty. It's pretty bad. I can talk about it now. And if you have any questions about jury duty, let me know. And I have finished 2 rows. I did it. So, I don't know if I'm going to continue doing these knitting musing things. I think I will if my phone keeps kind of acting up and it's hard to record. But hopefully I can continue doing traffic musings. But if not, this will be a thing. And we have gone overtime in my very scattered story. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope something amazing happens to you. Without further ado, I hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye!